brother tried to burn my fiancé alive on our wedding day, and I seriously owe him one. As I walked down the aisle, my brother sprinted past me carrying a gas can, doused the entire altar in gasoline, and lit it on fire before tackling my groom straight into the burning flowers. My veil caught fire as guests stampeded toward the exit screaming while my brother pinned my fiancé down in the flames, punching him and yelling something I couldn't hear over the chaos. The groomsmen dragged my brother off while my fiancé rolled on the ground with second-degree burns covering his hands and arms. My mother was sobbing so hard she threw up on her dress. My father was screaming at my brother about destroying our family, and 300 guests called 911. My brother kept fighting the 4 men holding him down, blood streaming from his nose where the best man had hit him, still screaming that my fiancé was trying to kill me. Everyone was comforting my burned, bleeding fiancé who was crying, while elderly guests needed medical attention from the panic, and the flower girl was traumatized beyond words. The priest was praying over the destroyed altar while bridesmaids sobbed about how my brother had ruined the most important day of my life, and security finally arrived to arrest him. Check the champagne he was about to give her for the toast, my brother screamed as police cuffed him, his voice raw from smoke inhalation. He's been poisoning her with mercury for months, and today's dose would have killed her before you cut the cake. Everyone went silent except for the fire still crackling through what used to be our ceremony space, and my brother continued talking fast because he knew he had seconds before they dragged him away. Look at her hands shaking, her hair falling out in chunks, the confusion she thinks is wedding stress, but it's actually mercury poisoning from the makeup he's been switching out since March when they moved in together. My trembling hands went to my thinning hair that I'd been finding on my pillow every morning, and my brother kept going, showing texts on his phone the cops hadn't taken yet. I have screenshots of him asking his pharmacist friend about lethal doses and how to make it look like sudden illness, plus receipts for mercury compounds he bought online using cryptocurrency so it couldn't be traced. My fiancé started to stand up, but the best man held him back, though I noticed the grip had changed from supportive to restraining as doubt crept across his face. He took out a $3 million life insurance policy on her last month without telling her, and their honeymoon suite already has a syringe of concentrated mercury hidden in his luggage that would have caused complete organ failure within hours of injection. My aunt, who was a nurse, stepped toward the champagne table and dipped her finger in my glass, then immediately jerked back saying it smelled wrong, like metal and chemicals mixed with the champagne. More guests started checking their phones, googling mercury poisoning symptoms, and staring at me as they recognized the signs I'd been showing for months that we'd all attributed to wedding planning stress. My brother managed to pull up more evidence on his phone, showing bank statements where my fiancé had been draining my savings account in small increments I hadn't noticed because I'd been too confused to check, setting himself up financially for after my death. But that's not even the worst part, my brother said, as 2 officers held his arms and his voice broke with desperation. My fiancé had already given me a partial dose this morning in my breakfast smoothie, knowing it would take effect during the reception to make my death look more natural, and the antidote window was closing fast because mercury binds to your organs within hours. My brother had broken into my fiancé's apartment last night and found his journal documenting every dose he'd given me for 6 months, with notes about my increasing symptoms and calculations for how much more I could take before dying, plus detailed plans for playing the grieving widower. He'd gone to the police at 2 in the morning, but my fiancé's uncle was the chief who said there wasn't enough evidence for an arrest, then called my fiancé immediately to warn him that my brother was causing trouble, which is why my fiancé moved up the timeline. That's when my brother realized the only way to save me was to stop the wedding before I drank the final dose, and setting the altar on fire was the only way to make sure the ceremony couldn't continue because my fiancé had manipulated me into thinking my brother was jealous and unstable. The crowd turned to stare at my fiancé, whose face had transformed from victim to something cold and calculating as he realized his plan was completely exposed to 300 witnesses. 2 groomsmen grabbed his arms, but he was already moving, faster than anyone expected from someone with burns, adrenaline overriding his pain. The cake table was right behind him, and he grabbed the decorative knife we were supposed to use for cutting, spinning toward me before anyone could react or stop him. His burned hand locked around my neck despite the pain it must have caused him, and the blade pressed against my throat as he pulled me back against his chest, using me as a shield. The police officers who'd been arresting my brother froze with their hands on their weapons, but my fiancé was using me as a perfect human shield, and they couldn't get a clear shot. "Everyone stay exactly where you are," he said, his voice different now without the fake warmth I'd fallen in love with, cold and methodical like he was reading from one of his pharmacy textbooks. "Or I'll finish what I started right here in front of everyone." Full story on the channel below.